So this website should look familiar. It may actually look a little bit more advanced than what's in front of us at the moment because I'm developing this as I go along, but you would have come through here and you would have gone into this video and watched it. These other videos aren't there yet, but they will be quite soon. Now the reason I'm showing you this is because the next website lessons are going to be to do with responsive design, or adaptive design as it's called, and it uses a feature called Flex or Flexbox. And what does that mean? Well, this website, if you resize it, as you can see, it goes back, resizes itself down to iPhone size pretty much without losing any size or anything like that. And this is what we're going to be working on now. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to read a little bit at this w3schools.com website. So that's the place you're going, and this is what I'd like you to have a look at. CSS3 Flexbox. You can look up this if you wish. Tells you what it's about, gives you some examples, and you can try these examples yourself. So when you flick over, try it yourself, you'll see stuff over here, and you can change the code and basically have a look at the examples. So this one, there's the code, they give it to you here too. You can play with the code. So for example, you might make that say green if you want, and then hit that, and all of a sudden they become green. So you can play with those as well and just watch what happens, play with the dimensions, etc, etc. Alright, so there's a lot of stuff to look at. You're probably not expected to remember every single thing that happens. It's whatever sort of you need and what you do. That's what I did. I started here and I worked my way through, got what I needed, go back once in a while, have a look. It makes life a lot easier. So that's the first thing. Now, to get things started, what I'd like you to do, once again, thank you to Web3 Schools, is to take this code over here and put it into your editor and save it. And when you do, you'll get something that looks like that when you open it in the browser, but not quite. It may be if it's narrow, but if it's a bit wider, it will look like that. So that's what you want. As you can see, it resizes itself depending on the size of the window. Very handy these days with tablets and iPads and iPhones and big screens and all that sort of stuff. Nothing's degraded, it just repositions itself, so that's very handy. Now the code that's running that, which I've called Flex1, and I've saved in a new folder which I've called Flexbox. So the code is, I can just find out, there we go, if I can just get it back, the code is pretty much, I've copied and pasted it. I made one small change, I put middle in here instead, so that's one small change I made there. There's a reason for that which will come up later. Okay, so that's the code. Now, you've been here before. If I show you the next one, which does exactly the same thing, you'll notice that all that's left is that, but we have this. And so what you need to do is with Flex1 is to get all of that CS3 stuff there and take it out and save it in a separate CSS file like that. I've called it Flex2 because it's associated with Flex2 HTML, and then a bit later we're going to be looking at 3, etc, etc. So the CSS file does exactly the same thing. When you run Flex2, it looks exactly the same as Flex1. Alright, so if I go over here and change that to a 2 and run it, it's the same thing. It's just that we now have CS3 separate, which is what we want.